Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to this edition of The Buzz. Glad to have, of course, a good friend of mine, fellow villager from Tamuning. Maybe he moved somewhere else, but, but actually from the same village. An organization that just recently organized, and as you've been following us the past, this will be the third week now, we're talking about the concerns of the Catholic Church, and a group that just recently organized called Concerned Catholics of Guam Incorporated. We have the president of that organization, Mr. Greg Paris, again, president of CCOG, I guess, right? You call it. Welcome, Greg.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, it's, again, thank you for coming on. Just, it was the last week, again, you guys officially announced your organization. And, you know, we wanted to get all these points out, because last week we talked to Vanji Lujan basically about again the concerns about the museum. A week before that, there was of course individual John Toves who had alleged said had a cousin who was molested, alleged. And then your organization come out with different objectives, and the objectives basically is a lot of what people are saying, what the congregation, the Catholics of Guam are saying, because it seems like we have a divided church here in Guam. Mr. Barris?
Yes, and good evening, and again, thanks for this opportunity. But yes, we have a serious division in our archdiocese, and that has prompted not just myself, but a lot of the members of the Catholic community to come forth and express their concerns, ask the questions. You know, what's going on? What's the real cause for the division? Why is this happening to our church? And the perhaps the great disbelief that it's our leadership that is promoting this and largely responsible for the division in the church.
Now, if we go back, of course, we look at the Cathedral Basilica. Of course, your family had a lot to do with the erecting of that. Your father, right, and his construction company.
My dad.
The Paris brothers that. That built that church, basically. So, I mean, you guys are not, you're not foreign to this thing. But from what I know of Greg Paris as well, when I read the list of the officers and, again, the people that are involved with this, I'm going, wow, I mean, I know it because I'm a parishioner in my parish, and I see some division, although I don't pay as much attention as you and you know, the officers here. But I feel the division. I've seen the division. I've heard it, of course, through Father Paul, Monsignor James, and others as well. But when I look at the officer and yourself, I'm going, wow, there has to be some validity to what is saying, because you normally don't come out, you know, up front with something like this. But you guys set objectives. The Concerned Catholics of Guam Incorporated set some objectives, and I'd like to read some of at least the clergy and religious laity and the objectives here. Support local vocations, provide grants and scholarship to aspiring local seminarians, provide an official forum for complaints and concerns from the laity and clergy, provide a forum for and representation, assistance for those who have been abused by the religious and clergy in Guam, give the laity an official voice in the governance of the archdiocese, to encourage the Catholic faithful in the belief and practice of Catholic religion in matters of rites, liturgies, rubrics, and approved by the Sacred Congregation of Rites. Now, I mean, you have also the objectives for parish affairs and archdiocesan affairs as well. But when I'm looking at this, the Archbishop has been making his rounds to the different churches, and as of last, I hear, and I don't know how true this is, as of last, they kind of shunted or looked down upon your organization that was just created. How do you know, again, with these objectives, that you'll be able to sway the leadership of the church, especially the Archbishop, to answer some of these concerns that the people have?
Well, that's one of the goals. Present the issues to the Archbishop, who is our leader. Hope that he will respond in a positive manner. Hope that the answers we get are truthful, factual, and then to move on to the next step, which is to unite the Catholics, bring them back, start the healing, and then we would have to, after that, rebuild the archdiocese that we all grew up in. Like you said, you're from Tamuning. We're both residents of Tamuning. We grew up in that parish, and so now all of a sudden, everything that we've been accustomed to, that is familiar to us, is being practically turned upside down, and a lot of it, even from the layman's perspective, just doesn't make sense.
Sure. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, even within our parish, my understanding is that, again, there's an, I don't know what you call it, neo-catechumenical way, I guess they're called, that they have their own masses, separate and apart from what you and I are accustomed to and what you and I go to.
And so, you know, whenever you see changes, normally the first question is, why is this happening? Is this an improvement to what we're accustomed to? Is this better? Is this a better way of worshiping our God? And then only to find out that it's perhaps their practices are questionable, a lot of times secretive. And then you notice that if it's if it's really the best thing that could happen here, why isn't the entire island community?
Sure. And what baffles me about this, Greg, is this, that just recently we saw some changes to the prayers, right? You know, but that was worldwide. That changed, and they told us, I think, in a year in advance, that there are going to be some prayers that are going to be changed to be more reflective of the Latin translation. You know, when it had Latin and then they translated to the, I guess, to that particular tongue, right? But the prayers, again, just recently, maybe a little over a year ago, where that changed. Some of them had changes in the response to the change, but that notice went out to all of us. And we had a heads up on when this was going to be, you know, implemented and things of that nature. And as you're saying, some of these radical changes that are even contrary to how we grew up, or even contrary to even current teachings, aside from the neo way, that if those were the accepted practices as of now, I never received the notice anyway.
I doubt that a lot of people receive the notice. I know that in the past, our archdiocese would, like you said, put out the notice or the information in advance, and let people know what's coming down, and then carry out those practices. So there are no surprises. There's no disappointments, and then it doesn't necessarily raise the questions or what the motives are of the leadership. But to abruptly make these changes almost at no notice, of course, it begs the question why, you know, and who's behind it.
Sure.
And then the bigger question is this really something that Rome has approved, that the Catholic Church has approved? Because yes, we can be told that these are the prayers that are coming out, but unless we're priests or students of theology, we're not going to know. We're lay people.
And we take the word of our priests, and of course our
yes, and that's true, and that's because we were taught that by our parents. You know, you respect the priest and the leadership in our church. And I think this is why it is really causing a lot of problems and painful, especially to the senior members of the community, that all of a sudden there's this disbelief of what's happening, disappointment, and then it becomes to distrust. And I think we're at the point now where I don't think anybody takes the Archbishop seriously. And I feel bad about that, because he's our leader. And at the same time, he's the one person that can turn this around.
But likewise, he doesn't take us seriously with our concerns.
And that's evident in the lack of response when any of the questions come up or the concerns are raised. Regardless whether it's an individual walking in, or now and which is one of the reasons why we got together. We're thinking that perhaps if we had a group that's organized and presents these issues and concerns to the Archbishop, that maybe this might prompt him to take a look. And it's not just coming from one or two or a small handful per village, but it's coming from the entire island community, the entire Archdiocese of Agana.
Yeah, because and you know what, I got to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to ask about the people who are going into religious life, because over the years, I mean, not just Guam, but I mean, worldwide, there are challenges within the church for people to go and study and get into the religious life, you know.
Vocations.
Vocations, yeah. But we have two seminaries here in Guam. As much as the University of Guam is growing in its student population, we still have one university and one junior college, basically, the GCC, but there's no need for another university. But I don't see a whole slew of people lining up to get into, for the calling to a religious life. But we have now two seminaries here in Guam. Who's paying for it? Talk to you about that when we come back.
Right.
This program is brought to you by